Hey guys, what's going on? This is your boy RJ Game News USA here, back today with another video. And today, we're gonna go over a video about Andrew Wilson discussing his views on voting rights. Now, he's having a debate versus somebody named Namia from Jubilee. We'll sort of hear out her argument too, but we're mostly focusing on Andrew Wilson's argument. And I'm going to, pause and react and give my thoughts on why I disagree with his position. So if you like this kind of political content, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can tell, I'm patriotic for this video. But let me go ahead and just talk about what Andrew Wilson's position is briefly, and then I'll talk about my position, and then we'll get into this back and forth here. So Andrew Wilson has the position that stakeholders should be the ones that cast votes, which in other words means like rich white property owners, basically like how it used to be. And he also, thinks it should be left up to the states as well. He kind of does make the argument here for 35 and up being the voting age, considering the presidency is 35 and up. I'll address that as well as we go along. But let's just start reacting to this video, and let's just jump right into it.
How can you create and apply a law to people who are not represented? I just don't understand. Morally, how do you justify
There's nothing immoral about it.
There's nothing immoral
No.
about but that's
Like,
kind of
I would say it's more immoral. Why is it moral for an 18-year-old to nullify the vote of a 41-year-old if the 18-year-old doesn't even know what they're voting for? How's that moral?
Well, I don't agree with that argument. An 18-year-old could be more well-informed than a 41-year-old. Age does not institute either maturity necessarily. It doesn't insinuate any sort of political understanding. You don't magically get more political understanding because you're 41. You can move off a position that was correct in theory. You could be more correct when you were 18 than you were 41.
Moral.
Well, because the 18-year-old is still subject to the laws of the state.
Yeah, but they don't
If an
even know
18-year-old
what they're voting for.
Can an 18-year-old go to jail for 20 years?
I disagree. I cast my first vote for presidency when I was 18. I voted for Obama. Now, just because maybe, I regret my vote in some ways, it doesn't mean that at the time that I cast a vote that I wasn't a well-informed person. I've been well-informed about politics since I was 13, 14 years old. So I disagree with Andrew here.
Years?
A 16-year-old can. Should they be able to vote?
16-year-olds can't go to jail.
Yes, they can. 16-year-olds can go to jail for life. Should they be able to vote?
No, but why?
Why
would they be
not?
going
Why
to
not?
jail?
The laws apply to them, though.
Why?
So I'm a universal 18ist. That's what I'm going to call myself. So, I think 18 should be when you start to be able to drive, when you work, when you can vote, when you can serve in the military, when you can gamble, when you can drink. And that may upset some people when you can have sex, right? But I don't care. We have to draw the distinction somewhere. It is arbitrary to a degree, but I feel like a lot of things do happen already when you're 18. 18 is considered adulthood, and I think we need to stop infantilizing young people who are technically adults.
Why would a 16-year-old be going
Hang
to
on,
jail?
I don't understand. Because he murdered someone.
Okay, that's fair. If you
Yeah.
murder someone, that's a whole...
So I don't understand. Why can't he vote? The
Well,
laws
because we
apply to
all
him. Why can't he
understand
vote?
that. Yeah, but we all understand that.
No,
a 16-year-old
we all understand it's not an argument. Why does a 16-year-old get to vote even though all the laws apply to the 16-year-old?
Andrew likes to do these straw man arguments. Now, obviously, she's painted herself in these straw man corners that I would not paint myself into. I would just simply say, look, a 16-year-old shouldn't be able to vote because I don't think a 16-year-old should gamble. I don't think a 16-year-old should have sex. I don't think a 16-year-old is an adult. A 16-year-old's still in high school. I think 18 and 16 are two totally different things. Yes, it's somewhat of an arbitrary number that we in society have drawn, but there's this idea of consent and this idea of adulthood, and I think if we're raising the voting age and we're raising adulthood to be older, which I've seen it done with firearms, I've seen it done with cigarettes, and I think it's wrong. I think when you're 18, you're an adult. Bottom line. these people that are claiming 21 should be an adult, or 25, or 32, and your brain's fully developed. It's a bullshit argument. It's just a bullshit argument. We're infantilizing the entire generation below us for no reason, which is ridiculous. And I think it's very anti-conservative here of Andrew Wilson to be arguing for lack of voting for 18-year-olds. It's also discounting a lot of people who would agree with his conservative positions, who are young conservatives who would vote for conservatives as well. Not instead of trying to win the hearts and minds of those young people, he wants to disenfranchise them.
Year-old, why does he get to vote?
Not all the laws apply. They start in juvenile detention, and then at 18 they get the right to.
So laws apply to 16-year-olds.
But you're retried at 18.
So
like when
laws
you
apply to 16-year-olds.
Some laws, of course.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Why can't they vote then?
So babies should get the right to vote?
That's my question to you. That makes no sense. Exactly. So why do we limit it to 18?
Well, that's the age that we've defined as being a legal adult. That's the age that we as a country
Agreed.
have universally agreed with our right to vote is.
Yeah, but what
the
makes
age of
that a
legal
good
adult.
idea? Just because you arbitrarily.
That's the age.
Yeah, but just because you arbitrarily say, for instance, that because you're 18 and you're an
Okay, Andrew, what age should people start working? What age should people start driving and drinking or having sex or serve in the military?
adult. Like, you can't buy cigarettes. You can't buy beer. You can't rent a car, but you're an adult.
You should be able to buy cigarettes, rent a car, and get beer when you're 18. You should. You should, absolutely. I think it's bullshit that you can't. If you're an adult, you're an adult, period.
And now you can vote in the participation of democracy. At least raise it.
So you'd like to raise it?
At least raise it.
So you would like to universally raise the age to vote? I think that would be a better idea than like not allowing
No. What I said is at least do that. But the thing is, like, you're actually inconsistent here. Your whole argument is to say if laws affect people, they should have a right to vote. But we have an entire cast of people from the age 17 down who laws apply to and can't vote. And you just are like, you shrug that off like you didn't contradict yourself.
They're in school. They're under parental supervision. They're not adults, Andrew.
I'm pretty sure it has something to do with brain development. But we've all, like, you have to have an
not fully
age
developed till what, 25 according to the studies?
But how do you have a society in which you don't have an age that someone becomes illegal?
I agree, but why couldn't you have a society in which you had stakeholder democracy? It's the same logic.
So if you're saying that we should not disenfranchise children, why would you then disenfranchise people who are legal adults?
When did I ever make the claim that I wanted children to be able to vote?
You just said that if everyone should have
No,
the right to
I
vote.
told you that your view is inconsistent. If it is
Andrew's got her on that point.
You say, Andrew, if laws apply to people, they should be able to vote. Except, I don't know, everybody's 17 and under. That's inconsistent.
Because the laws do apply to children
It's
differently
inconsistent
than they apply to
and a
adults.
contradiction.
But laws do apply to
What about the
children
laws that don't?
differently than
What about the laws that don't? What about the laws where you're 17 years old and you can be tried as an adult?
Well, those are to protect, like, public freedom. I mean,
Right.
but everyone loses civil liberties when they are a danger to the public.
Yeah, but
That's everyone.
Do you understand that you're making a contradiction when you say if laws should apply to all people should have a right to vote because they have laws which can be applied, they can be sent to prison, was your example. That would have to include everyone under the age of 18.
But people under the age of 18 don't go to adult
Yes,
prisons.
they do all the
they
time.
don't.
Yes, they do.
Andrew's right about that. And younger people than 18 do go to adult prisons a lot. And she's pretty naive on that point.
That is, you want me to give you sources of 16, 17-year-olds tried as adults and sent to adult prisons?
Okay, but that's like an exception for exclusively horrific crimes. I mean, those are violent offenders.
Does the law apply to them or not?
To violent offenders, if you are a threat to public safety, yes. Everyone who is
then
a
if
threat
the
to public
law
safety.
applies to them and they can be sent to jail, then by your logic, they should be able to vote, which
But for
means
those
you're in
offenders,
contradiction.
To those offenders, they are sent to juvenile detention centers until they turn 18, and then they are sent to an adult prison. They are still
they're
tried as a
sent
child.
often to adult centers, even at 17, to adult prisons.
You can be sentenced as an adult, but you can't be sent to an adult prison at the age of 16.
This would depend widely on the state that you're in. It's not rigorously enforced across the board like you think. I don't think there's federal laws which say that. But
Well, then I
even if
think
it were
that's
the
wrong.
case, I'll just grant it.
Well, then that's wrong.
I'll even grant the entire thing. It still wouldn't matter. Laws apply to them. They can still be sent to prison. They fit both of your criteria. Therefore, if you say they shouldn't be able to vote, your worldview's in contradiction.
Well, then I think that's wrong. I don't believe that children should be tried as adults until they have become adults.
So no
I
laws
disagree with
apply to
that.
children.
No.
Well, then why shouldn't they be able to vote?
A threat to public safety is always applies to everyone.
All right, that's a straw man argument, guys. Let's pull up another clip of Andrew.
Schultz, but everybody voting has been a disaster. It's been terrible.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that by everybody being able to collectively vote rather than people at stake in the system, what's been able to happen is that the Treasury has been able to be robbed by the collective power of the vote. So what happens is
No, Andrew. No, Andrew. No, no. Everybody who is 18 plus has stake in the system. I don't know why you delineate between who has stake and who doesn't have stake. We all have stake in the system. We're all taxed, okay? You're 18 plus, you work, you're taxed. That's stake in the system. You're 18 plus and you buy something, even if you're not getting income tax, you're getting sales taxed. You're getting property taxed. You know, you're paying for toll roads. So you do have a stake in the system. And in fact, I would argue for a more direct democracy, where more laws are decided by people voting than by representatives. All right.
I think honestly,
18-year-olds are so fucking stupid they shouldn't be able to drink, but they're so smart that they should be allowed to have a gun and that they can be compelled and conscripted into military service. How is this a good system again?
no, I honestly, I kind of see your point, but I don't think the solution is to take away vote. Honestly, if anything, it would be to ensure voters are well informed before they vote. But no, I think it's a hard thing because there's pros and cons of.
No, well, the answer would be to lower the drinking age and lower the smoking age and the gun age or whatever to 18. Okay? That would be the correct answer.
I don't think it's a good
Every which
system.
way.
I think if we look, and here maybe I can change your mind because we found
that-
some common ground here.
Yes, but your argument doesn't say why women shouldn't have the right to vote. It's kind of just saying why 18-year-olds are
What
dumb.
was my argument that women shouldn't be able to vote? What was my actual argument?
So the other day I posted up a debate between Andrew Wilson and Rob North.
All right. Okay, let's see. And now he says women shouldn't be able to vote.
Men should be able to vote, or that men shouldn't be able to vote. It's like, well, at our founding, they couldn't. Women could not vote.
Well, at your founding, as you said yourself, you had slavery, right? So things do change over time.
Yeah, exactly. Things change over time. The founders are not perfect, okay? That you got to get that mindset out immediately.
Sure, but the thing is like,
Sometimes in a good direction.
sure, it's sometimes in a bad direction.
Oh, absolutely.
So the thing
Of
is
course.
like, the idea that they had there was that most men couldn't vote. There was no universal suffrage for men, including slaves, right? For the most part, were men. And women couldn't vote because most people weren't allowed to vote. Now, women, the arguments against women voting are pretty simple.
Now, look. I think that it's dumb when most people don't get to vote. That's ridiculous. You should be able to have a say in your country as an adult.
The idea is landholdership and force, right? Can women utilize force in order to maintain land? The answer is no. Generally, that takes men. So the biggest, if you're looking at feminism, for instance, you had the anti-suffragettes and then the suffragettes. But the anti-suffragettes' arguments were way better. The argument was pretty simple. It just worked like this. You cannot erode or get rid of the patriarchy because you always have to appeal to it for your rights. And that's a fundamental truth.
That is true. That is true. Feminists cannot get rid of the patriarchy because you always have to appeal to the patriarchy for your rights. Accurate. I'll give them that.
And since that's a fundamental truth, I've never seen a great reason why women should be able to vote. Because they can vote to send men to war that they themselves do not have to go fight. They are.
See, this is where I call bullshit. This is where I call bullshit. Because I believe that women should be in the military. If you're going to... And this is where I'm taking the other side of the coin, as Andrew is. I understand Andrew's argument. But those are the arguments that lead me to say, okay, then actually treat women as equal members of society. Force them to do the things that men do. Force them to do the things that men do. And if they don't, then I would agree with Andrew Wilson's position.
are. And they could say, well, you're not beholden to the draft, perhaps because you're too old for it, but you were beholden to the draft when you were not too old for it, so your time could have come.
At America's founding, voting wasn't for everyone. It was tied to...
So yeah, I think you guys get the gist of it. I understand Andrew's argument, but at the end of the day, I think it's a bullshit argument. I'm completely 100% for 18 plus voting. You know, I was grateful to be able to have the opportunity to vote when I was 18. I'm a consistent voter. I will always be a voter. And this idea that you must own stake, that most people can't vote, that your representatives must be elected and sent and make laws, I really believe we should have a much more direct democracy than we do. It's a lot of the reason why we don't get policies done how we would like in Washington. And if you look at when direct democracy takes place, laws get passed like raising the minimum wage, or taxes don't pass that otherwise would have passed but because the people reject it. And I think that a more direct democracy, we all would have a bigger stake in things. And I think Andrew doesn't seem to get that. And the thing is, when I champion individual liberty, I mean for all people. Men, women, blacks, whites, right? It's not appealing to any sort of ideology politics or voting blocks or any DEI or race relations or any feminist agenda. It's simply to say you are a intelligent soul, 18 plus, that can make your decisions on how you vote democratically in our society. And I would like to expand, actually, our democratic reach beyond just sending representatives to Congress and then voting on a few little local legislations. So that being said, I couldn't disagree more with Andrew's take. However, I do agree with him that if women don't serve in the military, if men aren't allowed to have abortions, like paper abortions where they give up their fatherhood, like women give up their motherhood, if men continue to have to support women on child support, if they continue to have to pay alimony, if we continue to have this double standard in society, and they refuse to actually have equality for men and women, then I would agree with Andrew Wilson's position. If we're going to be in the position of men having to do the heavy lifting in society while women skate by on the generosity of men, then I'm not a fan of that either. So we got to make some changes one way or another, because the current system is broken. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. This is RJ signing out. Have a good one.